All right, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a really good day, and I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So can you tell me, so you just flew in here, right?
I did. Flew in this morning, did an overnight from San Francisco.
Oh my gosh. I am so grateful. Thank you so much for doing that, for being here. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have with you for a while. I feel like we started it and I was like, no. We got to do this for the show.
Yeah.
This is getting too good. But before I get into it, I guess, let me introduce myself. My name is Markiesha Patrice, and I'm the host of MindShifts. And here on MindShifts, we talk about the technologies that are changing our world and the mind shifts that we need to experience in order to adopt them. And so with me today, I have Angela Rowe from Humane. So Angela, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience before we get started?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Angela Rowe. I manage talent systems and programs at Humane, and I've been there for almost 3 years, actually, coming up in a couple of weeks. Time is flying by.
Wow. 3 years in the AI world.
3 years in the AI world, yeah.
Wow. I feel like, so prior to me joining and working in AI, I was in crypto. I was in like blockchain, emerging tech. I've always been in the tech space, right? And I used to think like being in blockchain and crypto, things move fast. But it ain't got nothing on AI.
Not on AI. Yeah, AI is moving hella fast. That's some Cali lingo coming out of me now.
Bring it, girl, because I'm gonna use dead ass a couple of times.
Yeah, AI is moving really fast. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and so I came from the fashion creative world. I made music before I left New York.
Okay.
I hosted art exhibitions. I was a singer.
Oh, we might need to. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it if we got time at the end.
Maybe at the end, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a crazy ride, honestly, in these 3 years. Even at Humane itself, like so much has changed from my first day to where we're at right now.
Yeah.
How we talk to people about what we're building is completely different from when I first joined. And we were only 87 people when I first joined. So
and how many are you guys now?
We're about 200.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've really seen the company more than double in size.
Yeah.
And it's been insane. Like, the first couple people that we hired, we couldn't tell them anything about the product. So we were just like selling them based off of like our mission and vision. Yeah, exactly.
It's vibes.
Like, we're cool to work with. Come hang out with us, And now it's like, oh, we like have a product to talk about. And we have reviews to talk about and address in those conversations. So yeah, a lot has changed in the 3 years.
Oh, see, I was going to start somewhere else, but now, okay, let's actually start. Let's get the audience familiar with who you are, and kind of what you do, and how did you kind of break into the AI space? Because then we want to circle back.
Yeah,
because I want to know. I got some questions about that.
Yeah, definitely. So my brother and my dad have both been in the tech space for a while. My brother's an engineer. My dad's a creative. He moved out to California about 15 years ago for Apple, actually.
Oh, nice.
And so I've always been in the kind of tech creatives intersection my entire life. That was like my upbringing with my dad and my mom. And so when I moved out there, I moved out for a different job that was still kind of close to what I'm doing now, but wasn't really in tech. I was more so in retail, in the fashion industry still. But of course, you move into the bubble, you're in it, you're around it, you hear people talking about it. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for something challenging. And I came across Humane and I was like, whoa, this seems super cool. And I want to get into this space and break into tech, as people say. And so now I'm here.
Listen, we breaking in, we breaking down, we just breaking things right now. Because we're trying to figure out how to put it back together again with all these new immersive technologies. And so I guess tell me a little bit about the experience that you had getting familiar with AI, because you were in the tech space a little bit, but when did that like moment happen where you realized what AI could be and you started like really exploring the opportunity?
Yeah, so AI is not new technology, and it's really integrated in a lot of things that we have in our homes, in a lot of systems that we use already. I didn't know that when I first moved out to California. I'm like, oh, wait, I've already been using tools like this. But I think my introduction was at Humane. Literally that first day when I joined and they told me what the AI pin was, I was like, whoa, this is moving in a completely different direction than where I was expecting this to go.
Yeah. Did it feel like science fiction a little bit? Science fiction-y?
It did. Star Trek, very Star Trek. And people say that to us a lot too when they're talking about the device. Yeah, it gives Star Trek.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the world that I'd like to see. I grew up watching those sci-fi movies and seeing how technology was really integrated in your day to day as a human, and also helping you to connect with other people.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, wow, here's a company who's actually thinking about using technology to connect people rather than to pull us apart and really build your own world that you live in. We're really trying to create technology that brings people together.
Right, right. Right. I want to start. So tell us then, what is Humane? Because I think you and I are familiar. We're talking about it like we know, but for the people who are at home who maybe haven't heard much about it or don't know what an AI pin is or what the device is that you're wearing on your sweater, like what is Humane? And tell us a little bit about maybe its mission and what it's here for.
Yeah, for sure. So Humane's a consumer electronics company. We're really focused on building technology that feels more seamless and more human. When you think about the way that we use technology today, it's pretty screen dependent. And trust me, I'm fully in it. I have a phone, a laptop, an Apple Watch. I'm like in there like most people. But for us, we really want to move into a space where technology almost feels like it's not even there, where you're able to interact with it, answer questions, connect with people, get the information that you need without being distracted.
Right.
So thus the AI pin was born really as a way to put people back in touch with each other, but not take technology completely out of the equation.
I like that because I actually did a deep dive maybe about a week ago. And I started with a different technology, a different consumer device. Sorry for the technologists in the room, but I started with Google Glass. And I went down this rabbit hole about it because I wanted to know, like, how are people adopting consumer AI? And, you know, for say what you will, but Google Glass was not as successful as maybe some of the newer wearable devices that are for vision, right?
Definitely.
And so when I did the deep dive, what I kind of discovered is that there was this disconnect between it feeling like an extension of myself versus like an accessory versus like something that's just grabbing people's attention, I think can sometimes happen. And so that's why I like the petiteness of the AI pin. It's almost worn like a name tag. It's just worn and it's not obstructive or attention seeking or grabbing in that same way. Like, yeah, people might ask, oh, what is that? But it doesn't seem like you're getting stopped on the street. Would that be a fair assessment?
I actually I got stopped on the train today, but that's because I was using the laser. I think that trips people out. Anytime I'm like sitting
on a train, girl, are you crazy?
On the train, exactly, in public and just pull out the laser on my hand, people are like, what is happening here? So I do get stopped. Like I was on vacation in Hawaii and got stopped. In Europe, I got stopped as well because I was using the translation feature. So people do actually frequently stop me in the wild and they're like, hey, what are you wearing? What is this? That a body cam? Like, what does that thing do? They're a little skeptical when they first approach me, but once I like show people and like talk to them about what the purpose is, what our mission was behind creating this type of technology, people like really loosen up to it and they are like, wow, that's actually really cool. I could see how I would use that in my own life.
Yeah. And how are people starting to use it in their real life?
Yeah. And so everyone really uses it differently because it's so personalized.
Yeah.
A lot of people at Humane have kids. And so the way that they use their device is a lot different than, say, I would use my device. So they're focused on giving time back to themselves to be able to interact with their children without having to have their phones out. So they can like take photos of their first steps without having to view that through their phone, right? You're still seeing it in person. With a quick double tap, you're able to take a photo of your kid's first walk or a video of their first walk. So everybody uses it really differently. Me, I've really been using it for like movie suggestions. So I'm feeding it like, hey, I really like these types of movies. I don't like these types of movies. These are some specific movies I like. And then I'll say, hey, based off what you know that I like, can you recommend some movies on specific streaming services that I have? And it does a really good job at giving me things that are similar to what I've already watched.
Do you like watch TV with the pin on and it's like picking up the information at the same time?
No, so we're really big on privacy and security. So there is no wake word on the device. You have to touch and hold to be able to talk to it. We also have a privacy light. So this light here will come up different colors depending on what you're doing. And that's to let everyone around you know what's going on.
Got it.
So green signifies that you're taking photos or videos. Magenta is when someone's calling you. Orange is when the mic is actively listening. So we're really big on making sure like something is visually happening so people around you know that this is activated.
This is activated. Awesome. Yeah. I really like that part of it. And I like that you led with the privacy because I think that sometimes, and most times, people are either not really, they don't really care about the privacy. They're not thinking about it. It's not at the forefront until it is, until something happens and you're like, oh, wait, my data was taken. Or, and I like that at Humane, you guys are really thinking about privacy for users, because in some instances, I can't say the same. Yeah. Can't say the same with some tech devices. So I think that's awesome. One thing I also wanted to go back to that you said is how you talked about the company 3 years ago versus now has shifted so much. And I think that's the nature of tech. And I think that's the nature even of AI. Yeah. Is we started this conversation around LLMs and generative AI. And now some way, somehow we're shifting towards AGI. There's more predictive analytics being talked about. There's all these different reasoning, AI reasoning is being discussed. So now the conversation is shifting and it feels like it's happening so fast. Yeah. How are you guys seeing that? And from your perspective too, kind of what are you seeing as some of the trends and some of the shifts that are happening?
Yeah, things are really moving really quickly. I think specifically at Humane, I have a different experience than maybe what I have personally. Yeah. At Humane, we're kind of the first. And so right now is a period of almost patting ourselves in the back in a sense of like, people are catching up to where we were 3 years ago.
Go ahead, talk.
Yeah,
fast.
Seriously. And it feels really good. Like this year was challenging for us as a company. But now people are really catching up to where we are, really thinking differently about what are different form factors, what are different ways for humans to interact with technology. And now that these conversations are happening more openly, people are really like, okay, I think I understand what Humane is doing now. Whereas 3 years ago, people were like, I don't get it. Like, can you explain it to me again? What would I do with this? Yeah. Why can't I just use my phone? I think people are really starting to see that there is a shift coming. It's already happening. And so in that sense, at the company, it's been like, we're looking around like, all right, everybody's here now. Like we were the first seated at the table and other people are starting to join the conversation. Yeah. For me personally, wow, I'm like blown away by how quickly things are moving, how many tools are coming up on a day-to-day. Every Monday, I have a block on my calendar where I spend 30 minutes to an hour just going through what are some new tools and technologies that are out there right now and trialing them out. And it's kind of crazy how much is out there right now. There are things to help you build presentations, that can help you write documents, that can help you create logos and like all different types of stuff. It's really exciting for me to see. I know that for some people it's a little scary. Yeah. But I think growing up in a space and being so familiar with technology, I'm more curious and excited about it than I am weary of the tech.
I like that you use that word curious, because I think, and again, how I think about the mind shift of getting a user from one state of being an understanding to the ultimate state of being an understanding. And how I see that as maybe it starts at that fearful stage of like, what is going to be that motivating factor to get you to do something differently or think differently. And then it goes to curiosity. And so when you say the curiosity piece, it's like, oh, okay, so we're on to something. So and your journey started differently because you've been in tech. You understand how new technologies work. But for people who haven't been in tech, right, it's like, I've been working as a mechanic and we do use tech, but this whole generative AI thing, this is different. Yeah. Right? So I think that there's that. And then the next part is the action. What can I do with this? And I love the Humane pin, because the conversations you're having aren't about just like, oh, here's this new tech, you should be using it. It's actually like, what else can I do? How can I get my time back?
Exactly.
And I think that's exciting. And then the other part, the last part where I think we are not there yet, but when we get there, we'll never leave, is the innovation part. How do we continue to innovate? How do we continue to build? How do we continue to push boundaries? And so in your role right now, and maybe not just in your role, I want to even zoom out a little bit further, but how are you getting people to think differently about it in your everyday life? Are you having conversations? Like, how is it? Because you're in it. I'm sure people are asking you questions.
Oh, yeah. Great question. It depends on who I'm talking to, but I've found the best way to get people to be curious with me is to like just talk about the things I'm really enjoying about what I'm using it for. And trying to open that conversation as frequently as I can. So like my household now, pretty much everybody in my household uses ChatGPT on like a daily basis. I use it a lot for cooking. And so when I first started using it for cooking, I'd be in the kitchen and my family's like, whoa, this is super cool. How'd you come up with this recipe? And I was like, I got tired of searching through TikTok or Instagram or cookbooks to try to find different types of recipes and just went straight to ChatGPT and showed them how I used it. I think that's the big thing, is showing people how to use it, not just talking about it and what it can do, but showing people how I've used it myself. And then once I usually show them how I've used it myself, I can see the wheels turning in their head of how they could use it for themselves. Same thing with the AI pen. I was actually really surprised talking to like older groups, like folks who are maybe like 45 and older, about how they might be wary about this type of technology. But almost every person, including my mom, who's about 60, super easy for her to use. Like she sees me use it herself and then puts it on and she's like, oh, I could actually use this for this, or I could use this for this. Like it's so personal to you that people just sharing with them how I use it gives them that initial thought of like, oh, okay, wait, if you can do that with it, then maybe I can do this with it. So I think showing is way greater of a tool than just telling people what you can do with these things, which I think is right now there's a lot of conversation, but not a lot of showing people how do we use this technology.
I love that you say the showing versus telling, right? Because what we've been told is there's this disruptive technology that is coming. Your jobs are going to be taken. Basically, AI is going to eat the world, right? Like that has been the narrative. In a lot of, in a lot of parts of the world. And then on the other side of it, it's look at what this can do. And so when you say that, I can see that when you are tuned into specific channels of conversation, different media platforms, it's one narrative. And then when you go to somewhere else where the innovation is happening, it's a different thing because they've gotten it down where I'm going to show you what I can do. Every time a CEO of one of the big four companies, and for those of you at home who don't know the big four, Google, Anthropic, Microsoft, who am I missing? Meta. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, and OpenAI. So 5. But those are the companies that every time they step on stage, every time they're out, they're showing people what their tech is doing. And that's a big difference, right? And so to me, that's where I got excited. And I've already told this story, but being able to take your ideas and see them become real is way different than just having the idea over and over again. Right? Like that's different. That's a game changer. And so I want to also think about that with the job shifting, right? We all know, and we've had conversations on this show before about AI is going to be an augmenter. We think about AI is actually going to take some jobs. What's your perspective on that? Because you work in talent and people and management. So what is that for you?
Yeah. I think I have probably an unpopular opinion when it comes to that. In a sense, I think AI is going to replace certain jobs. I don't even think AI is going to replace complete jobs, like portions of people's jobs. But to me, I think about there's so much more we could be doing with our potential, like when it comes to these tools that can take on the mundane. So for example, for me, a lot of my job being in systems and operations is writing process documents and creating decks. That takes a really long time. And it takes away from what I'm super passionate about, which is strategy. How do we create better candidate experiences? How do we hire the best talent? How am I creating pipelines that are diverse? How am I making sure that the way that we hire is fair and equitable? I could do all of that work a lot more intentionally if I had tools that could do all the mundane tasks for me that come along with doing that strategy work.
Right.
And that's how I see myself using those tools now. They're assistants to me. I'm still in the driver's seat. I'm still the one making the decisions.
Right.
And I think that's how people should be thinking about it. I don't like the fear mongering that's around AI technology because there's a lot of opportunity around AI technology. And I think if people see it from an opportunistic perspective and start incorporating it in their day-to-day lives, and then can even see how they might incorporate it at work, whether your employer encourages that openly or not. I think people really can do their own due diligence of educating themselves, bringing these tools into their everyday lives, testing them out. That's really important. They're nowhere near where we expect them to be right now. So definitely testing them out and continuing to do your research. But it starts with us. I think we're really looking to these big companies to set the tone. But the culture around AI really comes from the people. And we have the opportunity to set the tone for how it's used in the workplace by starting to use it individually, showing the people next to you. Humane's an AI company, and we're still figuring it out ourselves. Like, how are we really using these tools internally? How are we encouraging employees to use these tools internally as well? So I really want to make sure that, people see the opportunity within these tools. And the cool thing about my job is, like, I get to work with students a lot. I built our internship program here at Humane.
Oh, okay. So any interns, when can they apply?
Apply now. There are jobs open right now on humane.com. We're super excited to be having our fourth year of students, actually. But yeah, you should see how involved they are in these technologies, how excited they are. I've seen no fear from these students when it comes to using these types of technologies. Like, they're in there and they're ready for that next thing. They come to me with ideas. I'm in these interviews and I'm like, you're blowing me away right now. Like, I feel like I'm being interviewed, But it's really great conversations with them.
And I think that's where it starts, right? Is like, the youth are so important to also making the innovations happen. I don't want to age myself, but y'all see my grays. I'm a millennial. And so when we were, younger, I should say, there was so much hope put on us, and we were able to usher in a lot of new things, a lot of social change, a lot of new conversations. We I can say, have really truly made our impact on society. But you're in Gen Z. Right. And there's a whole other Gen Alpha coming right up after you, followed by Gen XYZ, all of them that are coming. I think it's Gen Alpha A. Somebody will correct me on that. Please correct me in the comments. But there's all these generations that are coming next. And to your point about there's no fear. There's no fear. And so because there's no fear, there's so much more creativity they can do. And that, I think, is important, is removing the fear from the journey and just starting with a curiosity.
Yeah.
Like that I love. And one other thing that you said that I thought was very important is how we get older people to be excited about it. Because my mom, she's the one that was telling me, are you on that A1? I'm like, Mom, what is A1? Like, steak sauce? Girl, I don't even eat beef. Like, what are we talking about right now? But she was so excited about it, and she was telling me about it. And it wasn't as if she wanted to use it herself. She just didn't want me to miss the opportunity for it. And I think that that's her being a great mom, but I also think that's just knowing that there's something big on the horizon. And so when you're talking to older people, are you seeing them also buy the device, use the device? Like, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but I just wanted to see if there were any specifics around that.
Yeah, we are. I think, a good amount of the folks who have purchased the device have been 35 plus.
Whoa. That's not old, girl.
No, not not that old, but 35 plus. Not calling y'all old. Sorry. It's 35 plus, and then 35 to about 55 is the age range that we're seeing. I think past 55, we're not really seeing much engagement there. But when I have connected with people in person and showed them the device, they're like, wow, if I saw this on my own, I probably would have never purchased that. But experiencing it in real time and sharing with them what it can do really opens their eyes. So I was at Microsoft, I think at the end of last year, for an event that they did. And an older Black woman came up to me and she was like, what is that? Like, I heard you guys talking about it, but what is that? So we explained to her what it was. Luckily, our CEO, Bethany, was there in the conversation as well, which was pretty cool. But this woman was like, she has diabetes, and she shared that she carries around a device with her that makes a lot of noise when her insulin is low. And she was like, I don't like it because everyone in the room pays attention to me, and they know I have to do something with my health, or something is wrong with me in this moment. And she was like, I could really see your device just a different color light for me so that it's really personal to me and I am the only one who is aware of what's going on in the situation right now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and that was really enlightening for me. She had to be maybe 60, over 65, around my mom's age, and she was like blown away. I would buy it just for that. If it could just do that for me, I would buy it.
Wow.
And so I'm really am seeing that because it's so personal and everyone has a different use case for it. The moment that you just drop a little hint in there for them, like this is how you could use it, this is how I've been using it, people's wheels really start turning. So I have seen folks on the 60 and older side be like, wow, that's really cool. I could actually see myself using that.
That's amazing. Okay, I wanna talk a little bit. I wanna zoom out a little bit for you. I think Humane's a great company, and I really am excited about what you're building, and I'm excited to see what happens next. But for Angela, as you are thinking and getting these ideas, like what new ideas has AI spawned for you as you've kind of been working in the space and exploring the technology? Like, what has been that big moment where you're like, oh, if I had this thing in my life, my life would be completely different, or I want to see this in the world because I believe the world needs it and AI can help me do it.
Yeah. I've always known since I was really young that I was put on this earth to help people. I never knew what that specific capacity was of helping people, and everything that I've done in my life has been in service of other people. Even in my role at Humane is in service of helping people find, that perfect career opportunity for themselves. And so I've always known that about myself. I want to help people.
Yeah.
When it comes to using these tools in my personal life, I've really honestly felt a new wave of creativity and inspiration for myself.
Oh, I love that. That just like almost gave me goosebumps because I remember that feeling for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that is a mutual feeling.
It hit me almost like, honestly, it felt like a train oncoming where I woke up one morning and was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I can do a lot of the things that, like, the list of things that I have in the back of my mind that I've been wanting to do for so long. Like, I can actually get that done by organizing myself in a lot of these tools. And so I've started like organizing women-focused dinners in San Francisco.
Okay, so I'm going to be in San Fran very soon. So.
Come through, please.
Yes.
I'm really passionate about community and, like I said, helping people. And so these tools help me to help people. They help me build programs. They help me build community. They help me build events. I have the ideas in my head, and these things really help me put all of those ideas in one place and spit them back out at me so that I can reread my work. I'm someone who really lives in my head.
Yeah.
But I think these AI tools make it really easy for me to take the things out of my head and actualize on them. And so now that I feel empowered that way, where I don't have to keep these things to myself, I don't need to socialize them with just myself or my friends and my family. I can socialize it with this tool before I'm ready to share it with anyone else.
Yeah.
That makes me so excited and has made me really excited about a lot of the things that I want to do.
Okay. I got 2 questions, and then then we're gonna play a game. But I wanted to say something that's so important that you mentioned. So last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, I hosted a panel at an event, and I was speaking with a CTO of a company, and I asked them kind of like, what is the piece of advice that you give people who are trying to build things and bring them to life? And she said, build in public, right? Build in public. And I think we as people, and I don't even want to characterize it as a man thing or a woman thing or a race thing or whatever, but I just think that sometimes we just want to hold on to our ideas so much. And because if we put them in the world, what if they're rejected? What if somebody doesn't like it? What if it already exists, right? And to your point about just taking my ideas and like, so you live in your head and taking my ideas and putting them on paper, what I found is it's the same thing. It's like, I don't have to build in public. I don't have to tell everybody in the world and tweet about it on Twitter and go on or X or go on Instagram and say, hey, coming soon. I can just have a conversation with my LLM, and just say, hey, I have this idea. What about this? What about that? And just keep going back and forth until I do feel comfortable with sharing it with one person. That's kind of how this show came to life, honestly, is I started the conversation with myself of trying to figure out, how do I take what I'm passionate about bringing people along the journey of adoption, making sure that people are not left behind as technology advances. And how do I do that in a way that feels authentic to me, that feels right, feels good? I had this one idea, and then it turned to another idea, and then ultimately I was able to get it to this. And I think for me, that's a big deal of being able to, because otherwise it would have lived in my head forever.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes that's not where it's supposed to be. Like you have something in you, it's trying to get out of you for a reason. And I think AI technology is definitely helpful and useful in making that a reality. The other question I wanted to ask you was about, it was about personal versus real life.
Yeah.
I know that you started talking about this a little bit, but what I've seen is I've actually seen some people who are using it every day at work have a resistance to it in their personal life. Why do you think that is? Tell me, have you experienced that too?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I had that a little bit myself at the very beginning of like, do I really want to use this in my personal life? I think because it's so personal and people don't yet understand what type of data is being collected, where is my data going, what is that company doing with my data? People are really wary of using it in their personal lives and giving it so much of themselves to that technology. When we've already given so much of ourselves to technology.
Right.
Like me, growing up Gen Z, like I had a MySpace and a Facebook. Like there's so much information out about me on the internet. Probably I don't even want to go and Google myself and find those photos and awkward videos of when I was like 12. But
we all have
a digital footprint at this point. Right? It's like, it's going to take people realizing that it's already here.
Yeah.
I think that's the shift that needs to happen in people's minds is it's already happening. It's not on the horizon. It's not creeping up. It's here. Like we're in the thick of it. I'm in the thick of it. If you're in, San Francisco, we're in the thick of it. It feels really good to come out to New York sometimes and realize like, yes, not everybody's in the thick of it, right? Like there are people still living their lives and doing stuff. But yeah, I think that's what people need to know. It's already here. It's already, AI technology is not new. It's been integrated into a lot of the things we've been using for the past decade.
Yeah.
And so it's already here. It's just going to be a lot more prominent. It's going to be spoken about a lot more. It might be a little bit more controversial when we're starting to talk about laws and how are we utilizing these things, who should be using it, age restrictions, things like that.
The regulation environment is probably going to start to heat up very soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so people, I think, need to realize it's already here. And the faster you can get on the train of opening yourself to using this technology, you'll be a part of the conversation about regulations, about how do we make sure we're using this technology in the right way and in the best way for each other.
In the most humane way.
In the most humane way.
Okay, my last question for you, then we're going to play our game, is really about the ATS, right? When you're applying for a job, because I know this is a question everyone's asking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm applying for a job. First off, I am using the AI, but I'm using it for my resume. I'm trying to use AI to beat the AI, right? Like, can you talk a little bit about that experience? What are your tips? What are your recommendations? Like, how should people be thinking about, or not just thinking about, how should they be using it as they're modifying, enhancing their resumes?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll give two answers to this question. The first, I encourage everyone to use all the tools at their disposal to write resumes, to prepare themselves for interviews. Like, I really encourage people, especially students who are new to the world of interviewing and getting into, corporate America, is like, use these tools. They're here for you. So I really try to push people to do that. I also encourage them, like, reach out to people who are not familiar with what you're doing.
Right.
It's easy to talk to people about what you know when they know what you know. It's harder to talk to people who don't know what you know. And I think that's how you really learn to talk about yourself and the value that you bring. And so utilize those tools to help build what I call your elevator pitch, right? If you had 2 minutes to pitch to myself for an internship or anyone at a dream company that you want to work at, what would you say? What would you want them to know about you? And those tools are really helpful. Like, I sit down and ask ChatGPT, like, hey, can you ask me some questions to help me build, my elevator pitch for myself? And I want to make sure that I include these things that I'm really passionate about. And then it can help you kind of craft that narrative. So I always encourage people, use those tools at your disposal. Not a lot of companies are using AI on the back end when it comes to applicant tracking systems. Some companies are using like, keyword matching and things like that. You'd be surprised, not a lot of companies are doing that right now. It's mostly the larger companies that are doing that, but most companies are still doing the traditional way of recruiting, going through resumes and things like that.
Yeah. So for those of you at home who are watching, who are listening, that means you can beat the AI. It's not always an AI system that is rejecting your resume. That gives a lot of people hope, because I think that is, especially with the job market where it was like a year ago, and even with the recent layoffs that are happening, I think it creates a little bit of panic sometimes when I'm like, oh, should I send in my application? Nobody's going to read it anyway. And it's just like, is that the reality? Is that true?
There are humans behind there, me being one of them. We're here. That actually leads me into the second thing that I was going to say, is that there needs to be a change in recruiting. And that's my big focus moving into this new role that I'm in at Humane. How do we change recruiting? How do we change how people interact with companies to find new jobs? I think the system is incredibly broken. I don't believe really in resumes. Every time I've had to write one, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. Even as a recruiter reading through this doesn't tell me what I need to know about who you are, what you feel like you can contribute here, how you want to be challenged. Your resume doesn't tell me any of those things.
Or how hard you'll work.
Or
right?
how hard
if
you'll work.
It's the opportunity of a lifetime, I may never sleep again.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I think that people, we need to change the way that recruiting works right now. There needs to be a lot more transparency. I think a lot of people think, to your point, that they send their resumes into the void and nothing happens there, which sometimes can be true. Sometimes there's one recruiter to like 10 roles that they're recruiting for, and then maybe 10,000 applications per those 10 roles that they're recruiting for. So sometimes your application is going into the void. But that tells me we need to change our systems. We need to change how recruiting happens. We need to utilize AI to create more transparency up front for people. How do we give people feedback at the application stage?
Right.
Imagine if you could submit your resume to a company and their tool shares with you like, hey, thanks for sharing your resume with me. I think you'd actually be a really great fit for this role. It automatically is matching you to opportunities at the company versus you going through and reading these job descriptions that somebody wrote and didn't really consider all the things that someone would need to be successful in the role. Really training a system to understand a company and what it's looking for in its talent and give that feedback immediately to people who are applying.
I mean, even if you think about it, if I could apply for a job and maybe I don't get the job, right? Maybe I don't get past the application stage, but give me the feedback of why.
Exactly.
Why was because maybe I just missed it by a little bit, or did I miss it by a lot? And I think even giving that sort of information for people, especially as they're searching for jobs, can transform their entire searching experience, right?
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you're not only just submitting your resume to a role, but that you're also socializing yourself with the people at that company. And so reach out to the folks on LinkedIn. Again, your messages might go into the void, but you'll notice people's names. When people come up reoccurringly as a recruiter, you notice those people in your inbox. And I'm like, all right, this person's really, excited about this opportunity here. Let me reach back out to them. So I highly encourage people, don't just send your resume in. Also reach out to people.
Right.
You can reach out to anyone in the company, but ideally, folks who are adjacent to the role that you're applying for. And I always encourage people, don't start with work when you reach out to people and try to build those relationships. Just reach out. How are they? Ask about what their experience has been like at the company before you even ask for anything. Really try to understand their experience and what's happening at the company. And then sort of figure out for yourself, can I see myself here before I even throw my hat in the ring for this position? Can I see myself here after socializing and talking to people at the company?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I've got to get you out of here soon, but I want to play a game with you.
Awesome.
All right. So this is called This or That. So I'm going to ask you this or that. And it's got to be quick responses. We're just going to kind of test your reactiveness and your agility to these ideas.
Let's do it.
Okay, so voice or touch interaction?
Touch interaction.
Ooh, personalization or privacy?
Personalization.
Screens or projection?
Ooh, projection.
Okay, reliability or innovation? Quick.
Innovation.
Okay. AI-driven creativity or human originality?
Human originality.
All right, there we go. All right. So That's all I have for you today. I mean, we can just wrap up and just give the people something to think about for tomorrow, think about in their everyday. I'm just really impressed. I just want to say I'm very impressed by your knowledge, by what you bring to the game, your perspective. It makes me very happy to know that there's someone like you who's working in the AI space and who's thinking about the things that you're thinking about, that you have the ability to connect with people in the way that you do and show them and not tell them about the technology. And the fact that you're Gen Z and you're doing all these things, it gives me a lot of hope. Not like I was ever down and out, because I know that whatever's coming next is better than whatever was before. But I'm glad to know that you are there and you have the people's back as this AI innovation is happening. So let's tell everybody where they can find you, how to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And thank you again for being here. So what's your handles? Where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Angela Rowe again, Angela Rowe on LinkedIn. Unfortunately for me, that's the only place that I'm socializing myself right now. But if you follow me on LinkedIn, I have a lot more to come. I'm going to start writing a lot of newsletters and getting myself out there a lot more. So make sure you follow me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining MindShifts. My name is Markiesha Patrice, and I'll see you guys another time.